Okay, so welcome to another session of Service Desk Forum Arabia. All right, yep. So we are excited really about this new session. It's something I'm also excited about. It's a totally new game for us. So let me introduce our speaker, Paul. He's been actively involved in ITSM for more than 40 years in a variety of roles, from operations to development to IT management. He was always actively involved in development of ITIL Practitioner, which introduced the guiding principle to align ITIL to more agile way of working. Paul also is a business development director of GamingWorks. Paul likes to play, I think, a lot. Company developed the internationally renowned Apollo 13 and ITSM case experience. ITSM simulation games, the Phoenix Project DevOps simulation, and more recently, Marslander simulation, which can be stopped to support ITIL for training. And of course, culture change. He was also co-author and developer of ABC of ICT, the Attitude, Behavior, and Culture of ICT publication, having conducted ABC workshops and simulation workshops with delegates representing more than 5,000 organizations worldwide. He is a DASA ambassador. With that, I will leave the floor to Mr. Paul. The floor is yours.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. I'll try and share my screen, and then let's just make sure we can see my screen first.
Affirmative.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So welcome everybody. Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you're calling from. So the topic I'm going to be talking about today is a game. As Rudy said, he's excited to hear about what is all this gaming stuff. And the title of my session is "A Game is Just for Fun," right? I mean, why should we be playing a game when we're trying to learn new serious things? A game is just for fun, surely. Wrong. Often when we offer simulation games as part of training, often customers say to us, no, don't give us a game, just let us have extra time so that we can study to pass the exam. It's up to me now to show you why I think personally, again, examples of how organizations and I'm also going to be showing you, before I talk about this, it looks like my internet is getting unstable. I hope you can hear me still. Before I talk about the simulation itself and what it can do, I want to look at some of the key challenges and issues we have in the market at the moment, based upon our attitude, behavior, culture surveys from around the world. Some of the challenges that we have to solve. Digital transformation is happening. IT is becoming increasingly important. We can no longer afford to fail. We must get maximum value from our training investments. And I'm going to show you how a simulation helps realize that value. So first of all, what are some of the challenges and issues we see around the world? Here's the first one. This is the definition of a service according to ITIL. And I think it's relevant for everybody, service desk people, DevOps people, everybody. A service is all about value, outcomes, costs, and risks. That's what it's all about. Yet I've asked more than 50,000 people worldwide doing ITIL training. Put your hands up if you can tell me the definition of a service according to ITIL. Less than 5% of people know it, and it's usually trainers and consultants. I can hear you thinking now, why should I know that? Well, I'll tell you this, everybody needs to know, why are we doing ITIL or service desk training? Often the framework becomes the goal. Some people do ITIL for faster time to market value, increased revenue growth, lowering cost of ownership, reducing risks to critical business operations. There are lots of different reasons why we want to use these frameworks. This is the top scoring attitude, behavior, culture card taken from 5,000 companies around the world. It's a top scoring card every year for the last 15 years in a row. Here we see IT turning up. Here's the emergency updates to the onboard navigation software. The rocket's already taken off, we're too late. He's holding a floppy disk in his hand. That's how old this cartoon is. My daughters are in their 20s. They ask me, what's he holding in his hand? They don't even know what a floppy disk is. No understanding business impact and priority. Number one issue. And that's probably because we don't teach people the right things. It's all about this. As a result of this behavior from IT, we see this. And I would do the same if I was a business. Everything's got the highest priority according to the business. Now, for service desk, this puts you under an enormous amount of pressure. If everybody's insisting everything's got the highest priority, how do you decide what to prioritize? And finally, another top scoring card. Now this is becoming so bad, this relationship. IT is so critical. Here we see the chief executive officer, the CIO, going to a marriage guidance counselor, both of them saying, he doesn't understand me. So we've got a trust and credibility problem. And the only way we can get things like ITIL to work is by engaging with the business. Now, typically the business doesn't turn up on a standard ITIL training course or a service desk training course, but they're part of the problem. So how do you engage business people to also get them to learn what is their role in making the service desk successful, in making IT successful? You don't get that in a training. A simulation can do this. Next is this thing about co-creation value. So we need the business mentality, throwing solutions over the wall. DevOps, Agile teams throwing things into operations. The poor old service desk picking up all the flack as things go down, things are not working. Service desk not trained in how to deal with these things. We've got this them and us silos. So collaboration is critical. How do we collaborate effectively? You're not going to learn that in a standard training course. You get a bunch of theory, but how do you get people to collaborate end to end? Now, here's an article. You can have a copy of my presentation, and there's lots of little buttons. Click here where you can open an article. Now, here was an article we put on devops.com showing 7 different teams having played a simulation, what they learned, what does effective collaboration look like, what behaviors will we see? And this was also in a DevOps survey seen as the number one skill that teams need to learn, how to effectively collaborate end to end. And there's another article using the Mars Lander simulation within the ITIL context. So you can click on those articles. Implementing something like ITIL or service desk training or service desk processes and procedures, it's not an implementation. Nobody anywhere in the world has ever implemented a service desk or incident management or problem management process to optimize the level in one go. It's just not possible. That means it's nothing more than a continual improvement capability. We have to continually apply, reflect, learn, improve. This is another top scoring challenge we see worldwide, it, but we don't improve. Our survey shows that less than 20% of companies are doing formal CSI. I ask again at conferences, how many of you are doing CSI? Most people put their hands up. Yeah, we're doing continual improvement. Until I ask them this, are you doing it from top down, strategic to operations, and left to right, development, operations, service desk across end-to-end streams? Then very few hands go up. Collaboration end-to-end needs to be a core capability. But once again, how often do we put end-to-end people into a training course? Often you'll send the service desk people onto the training course to learn about the service desk, but is the development team there? Is the system engineering team there? Is the business there? How do you engage these people in service desk training so that they also learn their role in making the service desk or IT operations successful? CSI, it's proven out of surveys, companies are able to do 29% more work when they structurally apply continual improvement. So how can we teach people continual improvement skills? And finally, management commitment. You guys, anybody out there that's a manager, these challenges have been here for the last 15 years in a row, despite the fact that we keep sending everybody to get the latest certificate in ITIL, service desk training, whatever, we've still got these problems. So how do you solve the problems? That's what I'm going to show you now, how a simulation can help. So what is a simulation? Here you can see pictures of people actually playing a simulation. We have classroom-based simulation, bringing people together. But now with COVID, we can't bring people together. They've got to learn to do this online. So we've also built online games. So what is a simulation game? One is it's an interactive learning. Look at the picture. You can see whole teams getting together interactively to learn together. And it's a form of learning by doing. We give you the theory, then we let you practice it in an environment. It's a group of learners, preferably end-to-end stakeholders, service desk people, operations, engineering people. And what I'll often do is in this simulation, I might put the head of application development in the service desk role. Let them feel the stress, frustration that service desk people feel when end-to-end teams are not helping them. It's a great way of translating theory into practice. I'll show you an example in a minute of how that can work. And it could be translating DevOps or ITIL or SDI theory into practice. Give them some theory, let them try and apply the theory in simulation. It's a great way of teaching people to learn to collaborate because they've now got to work together end to end. Look at this picture here. This was one of the Arabian conferences we did. Look, these were all different stakeholders from different departments, all standing together to discuss, agree, design improvements, design processes, and make things better. It's a safe environment to learn. It doesn't matter if you fail in a simulation. If in the simulation a major incident isn't solved on time, nobody's going to die, nothing's going to fail, nothing's going to explode, so it's safe. Practice in a safe environment. The good thing about a simulation is it's played in a number of game rounds. Why is that important? We let people design their process using ITIL theory. We play the game round, then we reflect. What went well, what went wrong, what do we need to do to improve? So teams learn to improve. Then they play the next game round and they test the new theory, the improvements. So in one day, they get to go through a number of cycles of continual improvement, which, as we saw, is a core capability. The other thing is we use a game to focus on recognized team problems. There is no one size fits all. So we try to discover what is the organization trying to achieve? Why are they doing something like ITIL? For value, outcomes, costs, risk, why are you doing it? Then we can play the simulation to focus on exactly what the organization is trying to achieve. Why else is a simulation important? Okay, let's look at the scientific reasons why. I looked up the definition of the word knowledge. We send people to training to gain knowledge. And knowledge is this: expertise and skills acquired, and it's the practical or theoretical understanding of a subject. We are very good in IT with the education and theory. There's millions of theoretical ITIL certificates. But what counts really is the ability to apply it in practice, in experience. That's what a simulation gives to you. Also, what is the value of experiential learning? Well, you can see here, I'll just see if I can move this. Here was a survey to look at the impact of different types of training. Now, if you just listen to a podcast or a training, you'll remember 5% to be able to use it. If you just read an ITIL book, you'll probably remember 10%. Going to a typical ITIL training or a training like today, you're watching my PowerPoint sheets and you're listening to my story, you'll probably retain 25%. But it's been proven that learning by doing, you'll probably remember, retain, and be able to use 75%. So it's a more effective way of learning. If you want to get down into terminology, Bloom's taxonomy, a complicated model for the impact of training, typical classroom training is all about this level. Do we understand the concepts? Can we answer multiple choice questions to show that we understand? That's what most training is. The next level up is the ability to apply the learning. Now, a lot of training doesn't do that. It just lets you watch and listen to understand. Whereas learning by doing helps you learn to apply the training. And that, again, is what a simulation will give you. And as some people say, we've been through lots of training. This was the best training I've been on. I've actually captured things I can take away and use. Learning objectives. So what can you learn? Now, there are many things you can learn. There is no one size fits all with a game. Just like in my mind, and I'm very passionate about this, with an ITIL foundation training or a service desk basic training, there is no one size fits all. Yes, you can give people the theory about ITIL, but it should be customized to what the company is trying to achieve by using that best practice. So we could use a simulation to create buy-in to why should we do ITIL? Why should we have the service desk? Assess team capabilities. We can use this to play with a team to see how well they can apply best practice, how well they collaborate. Do they know how to prioritize? Do they know how to escalate? Do they know how to do problem management? Do they know how to record workarounds? So we can assess their capabilities and help identify improvements. The simulation can be played at a strategic level, a tactical level, or an operational level. I'll show you this game in a minute, Marslanda. I played it with a board of directors. I played it with CFOs, CEOs, CIOs. I've played exactly the same game with service desk, incident management, problem management, technology people. Exactly the same game, but with a different focus and a different set of learning objectives. We can use this to support culture change programs. I'm tired of looking at organizations that have posters on the wall. These are our new corporate values. We're customer focused. We focus on results. What does that mean? What behaviors are we going to see that demonstrates that? We can use simulations to practice those behaviors. Show me, what does focus on the customer look like? Show me in the simulation that you understand the customer, that you negotiate with the customer, that you give feedback to the customer, so we can practice those types of behaviors. We can use the simulation to let people practice, how do you design a process? How do you implement a process? How do you analyze and improve a process, such as an incident management process? So there's no one size fits all, just like a training. Now, here's an article. You can actually click on this image to download. It's called the 8-field model. It's on the Axelos website. Critical to any training, never mind a game, any training course is the intake. What problem are you trying to solve? I recommend to every CIO, before you hire any training company to give a training, define the problem you're trying to solve, and then ask the training company, how are you going to make sure that when you deliver the training course, my people learn how to use that theory to solve this problem? And at the same time, after the training, how do we transfer the learning? How do we apply the takeaway actions that we discovered in the training back in our workplace? This model explains how, as a manager, you should be scoping your training. This is what we do before any simulation. What is the problem? Who are the players who need to play? When we capture the learning, what are you going to do afterwards? So now we know what a simulation is and how it can be used for different objectives. Here are two simulations that we have. I'll move that out of the way again. So the first simulation that we ever developed was Apollo 13. People play the mission control room of the flight of Apollo 13. This was typically used for ITIL version 2, version 3, and typically it focused on designing incident problem change processes and service level management. And typically the game was focused on meeting service level agreements. We're now in the age of Agile, DevOps, Agile transformation, digital transformation. ITIL 4's now come out, faster, high velocity work. So our latest Mars lander simulation can focus on ITIL 4. How do we align with more agile DevOps and lean ways of working? We're no longer designing at the process level, we're designing end-to-end value streams. We're no longer meeting service level agreements, we're delivering business goals. This is the shift that's happening in the market now. And the service desk has an important place to play because IT is becoming increasingly critical. So we've got to learn not just to meet service levels, but to manage and protect business value, outcomes, and risks. So let's see what this simulation is. And I'll show you some examples of the scenarios that we can capture, some of the learning we can capture, and some of the key takeaways that people can capture. So Mars lander, the team plays these various roles. I play the Chief Executive Officer, the Mission Director. So as game leader, I'm pretty much in control because I'm the business. Somebody will play the Sales Director, trying to sell new products into the market. Somebody will play the Customer Relationship Department, capturing customer feedback, complaints. One of the roles will play the Product Owner, and the Product Owner will be gathering information from customer support and the Sales Director and giving this to the IT team. Hey team, I want you to build something for me. So this is a typical business innovation type team. One of the roles is going to play Flight Operations, Business as Usual Director. This director is responsible for continuity, availability, reliability. Business has to carry on. So we've got two different sets of business goals: innovation goals, operational goals. Somebody plays a service desk, has to try to solve these outages as quickly as possible. If they can't solve them in the game, they can escalate to the second level support, the systems engineer. If the systems engineer can't solve it, they can escalate to third level support, which might be app dev or the vendor. And then finally, when we're solving this stuff, it needs to go through change and release management. So here you see we've introduced a sort of complete value stream: break, fix. Work breaks. How does it flow through the whole organization to get fixed? Another value stream is innovation. The business comes in with lots of innovation demands. App dev builds new products and new services and new applications and rolls them out. Often they need the systems engineer to build the systems. Then it gets deployed into live use. And suddenly the poor old service desk gets confronted with new innovation, things that they had no idea about. They don't know how to solve it, but suddenly everybody's blaming the service desk for not being able to solve this new innovation type stuff. So these are dilemmas we create in the game. And one of the players will play the service manager, responsible for the service level agreement. So we've got lots of different stakeholders. Often we'll put somebody like the head of app dev in the service desk role, or we'll put the service desk manager into a business role to understand more about business perspective. So we can switch and swap these roles. Now, in our online game, because we're in COVID now and everybody has to work remotely, this is what the online game would look like. It looks a bit like a classroom. Each player would have their own tabletop. And these tables contain lots of cards and information that each of the players in the game needs to use to be successful. There's also a big board where the team can actually record and manage their work. How many incidents have we got? Where are the incidents? Who's dealing with the incidents? What's got the highest priority? Why isn't it solved yet? Why are we still waiting? So they get to manage the work. And here you can see there's a screen and people are looking at the screen and they can zoom in, zoom out, move around the various roles. Mars Lander is played in 3 game rounds. We launched the rocket. That's the first game round. Then the second game round, we do 2 orbits around Mars. And the third game round, we deploy the small Mars lander on Mars. Between each game round is where the teams get to practice, progress iteratively with feedback. This is a new guiding principle from ITIL. What does it mean? It's just a buzzword, progress iteratively with feedback. What does it look like? I'll show you in a minute what teams discover. What I show you, you can even take away and start using yourself without even playing a simulation. It's just simple ways of practically applying this stuff. This is what also happens in the game. Here you see 3 game roles: the product owner, flight operations, the service manager. Now the product owner knows what the mission goals are. They know what we're trying to achieve in terms of revenue growth, customer satisfaction, time to deploy, time to market. They know exactly what the business goals are. Flight operations knows for every single moment in the mission what should now be happening. Which business functions are now critical. Just like reality, this is not a game, this is reality. The business knows what the critical business functions are and when they're critical. And the service manager has the service level agreement. Just like reality, this is reality. Suddenly in the game, the product owner starts putting work into the game. I've got a new application I want to build. Hey, the customer wants a new feature built. Just like reality, the service desk starts getting automated events coming in that need fixing. Suddenly, flight operations is putting issues in. Hey, the solar cells are not turning anymore. Suddenly, we're finding there's lots of problems that keep causing repeat incidents. Things keep breaking again and again and again. And the service manager has got some service improvement projects. Well, the service manager's got some fantastic new technology like automated event monitoring tools. Now, as you can see, there is far too much work to do, just like reality. When teams play this, they say, this is just like reality. How can we possibly deal with all this? Well, you show me. You've been on the ITIL training. You've been on the service desk training. Show me how you use that theory to solve this problem, because you said it's just like reality. So we create this situation. Too much work. How do you align with goals, with risks, with improvement needs? Here's a picture of a team playing a game. We let them design their processes. The ITIL experts design processes. Then the clock starts and all this work starts coming into the game. And look what's happening here. Does that look to you like effective collaboration? That looks to me like lots of different silos. And this is what happens in the game. Has my feature been done yet? What's happened to my customer feedback? Well, IT said they would do it. Here you see the business team totally on its own, being ignored by IT and not talking to IT. Here you see a business manager saying, hey, the data's out. I think we're going to fail. App dev's got his back to the business. App dev is too busy building a new application. They're not even talking to the business. They don't even care about the business. Change manager. Yeah, this change calendar's filling up. What are all these changes? I've no idea. Let's do this one first because this guy keeps shouting about it. No relationship at all. The poor old problem manager back there is wondering whether they should be looking at these problems. Doesn't know anything about business value, business goals, or what is happening. Another silo. The service desk, I solved all these incidents within the service levels. No idea whether that's got any relationship to business value or risks. And here you see the poor old service manager. What about my backlog of service improvements? Hello, is anybody listening to me? This is what typically happens in the first game round. And even worse, the chief executive officer then comes in and asks a simple question, which honestly, to be perfectly right, this is the most relevant question in the world. And this is what happens. Did we achieve our goals? And this is what you typically get from every single IT team that plays this game. Huh? Goals? What goals? We're too busy solving incidents, putting changes in, recording features, building products, doing projects. We're so busy focused on the work item, we've got no clue what are the goals. Now, at the end of every game round, we actually produce reports. We show them. Based upon the work they actually do in the simulation, we say, look what you've done to revenue growth. Look at the customer satisfaction. Look at my level of risk. Remember, value, outcomes, costs, and risks. And then I ask the team as chief executive officer, is this good or bad? And I hate to say, from out of all of the teams I played with around the world so far, the answer is, well, it looks okay. Well, revenue's gone up. Well, I guess it could be better until I show them this. These were the goals. How come you didn't know the goals? Now that they're suddenly aware of, wait a minute, that's the goals, we're not achieving our growth targets, customer satisfaction is dropping, customer loyalty is dropping, we're losing customers, risk is incredibly high, too many critical business features and functions failed. We met the service level, yes, but we failed to achieve some of the major critical outages that needed to be solved on time. So this is what we show the teams. Remember that card? No understanding business impact and priority. #1 scoring card, 15 years in a row. And every team I put into this simulation comes up with this at the end of the first game round. They don't bother to engage with the business. They don't understand the goals. So that's what we teach them. Now let's have a look at what can typically happen in the game. Here's the game board from the service desk. Now, the service desk is busy doing actions in the game, putting them onto their board. Now, the service desk has got this board that's called a WIP board, work in progress. And it shows that in each game round, the service desk can only do 4 actions, 1, 2, 3, 4. But one of them at the start of the game round is blocked. And it's blocked with something like this, lack of service desk knowledge. So this means in the simulation, the service desk has to escalate 25% of everything they do to the systems engineer because they don't have the knowledge. So I don't have the knowledge, I need to escalate. So here's the systems engineer board. Here you can see the systems engineer could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of work each sprint. And they've currently got 2 blockers, like manual releases, which means they can only do 4 new pieces of work. And now they're getting 30% wasted ad hoc firefighting work. Because all of the knowledge and action cards that the systems engineer has got, a lot of them say, we could train the service desk to do this because it's easy enough and we could teach the service desk. But if they don't do this, then the systems engineer is wasting 30% time firefighting, which means they got 30% less time to work on new features, new value adding products. And the business gets really angry. I can't be solving all this ad hoc firefighting stuff. So we confront the teams with this. At the end of each game round, we now reflect. We've got a board like this, and we reflect on 4 things. What worked well? What do we need to work on? And are there any ideas we can try? And we start capturing bottlenecks. And here you can see, service desk didn't have enough knowledge. Oh, the systems engineer was a bottleneck. Oh, we kept getting the same issue, kept coming back again and again and again. It was wasting time, using up valuable resource time. Right, that's feedback. This is this guiding principle in ITIL, feedback. Now we need to learn how to solve this. How can we progress iteratively? Now is the time you give them theory. Now theory becomes in context of a problem. And I could give them some new theory now. I could give them ITIL theory, SDI theory, Verisum theory. I don't care. I can give them theory. Okay, theory about shift left, multifunctional skills. What is problem management? How do you do problem management? How can we analyze incident trends? What does business impact analysis look like to identify risks? So this is where you give them theory. Now you've given them theory. Now you ask the team, what are we going to try before we play the next game round? So just like reality, this could be a real end of the week in your company. Capture bottlenecks at the end of the week. Look at the new theory, the courseware you've been on, and come up with 3 new tips. And here you see where the team came up with 3 improvement suggestions. Let's put problem management in to analyze the issues, stop downtime happening. Let's make sure that the business helps prioritize against risk. And let's make sure we train the service desk to reduce the amount of work at the systems engineer. So this is what we now do in the game. So we said we want to train the service desk. So in the game, the service manager actually starts a service improvement project. We train the service desk. Suddenly, the service desk is now able to solve 30% of the stuff that would normally have gone to the systems engineer. Suddenly, the service desk can do more. We can do more first call resolution, increase capacity to solve, reduce the amount of time at engineering firefighting, improve customer satisfaction, and improve service desk motivation of staff. Hey, I'm able to solve some more complex things. My work's more interesting, more value. So this then happens in the game. We look at the problems. We get them to analyze incidents. Look at everything that's happened so far in the game. Do we see any trends? Oh, look, there's a problem. This keeps happening. Wrong location of the spacecraft. Oh, look, there's a problem. Errors, communication. So the team identifies problems. But I'll tell you what happens now. They try to get the problem solved. No, do my new project. No, do my new innovation. Because we still don't understand business impact and priority. So in the game, we get the business to share them. What are the business goals? IT, if you don't understand the business goals, how on earth can you deliver value? So we show them the business goals. We share with them the flight plan. Now, in reality, what are the critical business moments? What are the critical business? These incidents relate to critical business functions and critical business timing. And here you see, oh, look, we've got to make 2 orbits. Location is critical. Oh, look, we have to have data communication at this moment in time. This becomes critical. Suddenly, IT's starting to learn to make the business case, value, outcomes, costs, and risks related to the work we do. They're starting to become more business focused. Understanding goals to protect value, understanding critical business functions and times, using problem management to reduce outages and risk to business operations. Suddenly, when IT teams start talking like this in the game, the business people in the game say, wow, that's really valuable. Why don't you do this in reality? And then at the end of this, obviously we want to see if it made a difference. So again, we've got to measure it again. And this is what you should be doing in your companies. Small iterative improvements, and then measure. Did applying that new ITIL theory or service desk theory or whatever theory with continued improvement, did it add value? Or are we just playing at ITIL? Or are we just wasting time and resources? And here you can see we measure. Look. First call resolutions gone up. Reduction in the number of outages. Growth targets increased revenue growth. Of every critical incident and outage based upon critical business moments. So here you can see how a business simulation can help service desks create more value. Help other teams learn how the service desk can reduce their workload, ad hoc work. Let service desks show how they understand their role in managing business risk. And finally, another thing that we put into the simulation, I'm not too sure how I'm doing with time at the moment. Another thing we put in the simulation is this. Everybody's doing Agile and DevOps. And the poor old service desk right down at the end is usually the victim. So we also teach teams to do things like value stream mapping. Everybody's talking about value streams, DevOps, Agile, ITIL 4, they're all talking about value streams, but nobody's got a clue what they are. So in a simulation, you can actually practice one. Now, this is what typically happens. I call them value whirlpools. A whirlpool is water that goes around getting faster and faster and faster and faster and more violent until it forces something out. This is what happens. The business comes in with a new feature request. Hey guys, I want you to build something for me. So the product owner goes to app dev, build me this new feature. The first thing we should check, what do the goals say? Is it important to do this now? Often we then realize, oh, wait a minute, we've got an alarm. Work stopped flowing because we need the systems engineer to do some work. So now we have to look at the planning. Has the systems engineer got the capacity to do this now? No, the systems engineer is busy working on other stuff. Every one of these explosions is when work stops flowing. We're waiting for decisions to escalate. So then the product owner will now force the systems engineer to work on it. We build a new application with a DevOpsy team and we deploy it. And suddenly service management said, wait a minute, has that thing been integrated into the service management tooling, into the service desk tool, into the event management tool? We need somebody to implement it into the tooling. The alarm goes off. I don't have time to do this. I'm too busy building another new application. So we force it through change management now without having integrated it into the service management tooling or the service desk tool with new incident category codes and classifications. We pump it into live use. It gets used and suddenly the service desk is getting lots of calls. The alarm goes off. We don't know how to answer these. We haven't been trained to answer this. So they ask second level support and the engineers to help them. The alarm goes off again. Sorry, I'm too busy working on another new release. So nobody starts helping the service desk solve these things. We pump it out into live use and we start measuring the business value of this new innovation project. But what we forget to measure is this, and this is where service desk teams and operations need to be real good in, capturing the amount of negative customer feedback and capturing the amount of issues because of every one of these moments where we ignored service management, we ignored the needs to integrate into the service desk capabilities. What happens is we start losing money, losing value, excessive wasted downtime. That's when we now need to evaluate the complete end-to-end flow. We're not just evaluating the service desk capability. We need to evaluate the whole end-to-end chain that is causing this downtime and outage and causing this risk at the service desk. So this is another thing that teams can learn. App dev people in the game, the systems engineering teams in the game, they all get to learn now the impact of what they do on the service desk. And it helps change their mindsets to improve all of these areas. So there's an example of what can happen in the game. A lot of good learning, a lot of fun, but now the important bit. This is what happened between the game rounds. You can take this away and actually do this yourself. We asked people, how did it go? What do we need to work on? So what went wrong? Are there any new ideas we can try? At the end of the day, you want to see all of these new ideas end up here. It's now working well. So you want to see this movement taking place. That will then raise new questions. Are there any new unanswered questions, things we don't know about, new things that might not be working well? Are they things we need to work on? If so, what are the ideas we can try? This is what the team learns in the game. You could take away this and start applying it now, even without a game. So we ask people at the end of the day, all of these things in the top left, what worked well? What did we actually do today? Problem management, escalation, understand business goals. Did it make a difference? Yeah, look, we realized how it improved business value. Next question, what can we take away? This is when teams now capture, what did I learn? What can I use in my day-to-day work? And what improvements do we now need to apply based upon what we discovered in this game? These now become concrete improvement actions for your organization. Here you can see, identify critical business function and time for key services, ensure service desk training in new services, analyze incidents, identify the top 10 problems. The trick now is, any of you that is a manager, it's now entirely up to you, the success or the failure of the game, or in fact, any training course. What do you now do as a manager to coach, empower, and enable individuals to do the new learning? And what do you now do as a manager to make sure time is reserved for teams to actually start to apply things that they said, we experienced the benefit of this in the game. We saw the impact on performance when we do this. We want to take these improvement actions away. You've totally empowered teams to improve performance. If you now as a manager don't allocate time, effort, resources to transfer the learning into live use, then you've wasted a training course. They may have got the certificate, they got a new ITIL certificate, they got a new service desk training certificate, tick. But if they don't know how to use it in the context of solving a problem, then in my mind, that is a waste of money. And we cannot afford to waste money because IT is becoming too critical. We've got to make sure when we learn things, people are able and willing to apply it back in their work. That's the power of a simulation. Finally, we did a survey to ask customers. We asked 35 big organizations, was it worthwhile doing the game? This is what they came up with. Simulations are most effective here. What are the key benefits? Improved quality of services because we see people actually applying the behavior they learned. We see people getting together continually after the game to practice the continual improvement. And we see that it reduces time, cost, and effort to implement new ways of working. This is what people say about it. And here you can click on this if you get a copy of the presentation. And there is a small case study of how the Barrack Energy Agency used Apollo 13 game, our Grab a Pizza game, to help realize a culture change. You can click on there and you can see exactly what they learned and what they took away. So there you go. Hopefully now I've answered a question. Game isn't a game just for fun. Wrong. A game is a need to have continual improvement instrument for translating theory into practice. So hopefully that was useful. I'll hand it back over now to you guys for any questions. So I'll stop sharing.
Yeah. Thanks, Paul, for this exciting game. Now I understand more what is really a game, and is it the end or the beginning, and how it is delivered. And I'm sure the way that you are delivering the games is really immersive. And I'm gonna ask the first question, and then we have a lot of questions from the audience that I will be sharing with you.
Yep. If we can't get to answer all the questions today, then give me the questions. And as I said, if need be, we'll write answers to them and produce a small article to post with the answers to the questions.
Yeah, sure. And then you're going to be sending the presentation, which I will also send in our email to the team. Okay, can I summarize what you said? I don't know, and I want your answer. In that tool that you are providing, or actually a wake-up call, I want to call it, are you refining or redrawing the processes and reconnecting the silos to align to management and to management strategy or to the mission they are assigned to do? Can I summarize it in this way?
That's what we're doing. We play, then we reflect. What happened? Did it work well? Did it not work well? If it didn't work well, how does it relate back to the strategy, to the goals, to what the organization is trying to achieve? And then we let people redesign the process, make improvements. What do we need to apply then to make it better? But the important thing here is we then give them theory. Now you give them the theory training again. This is what the SDI training says. This is what ITIL says. See if you can use this theory now in the context of solving the problem, in the context of achieving the strategic goals. That's what we're trying to do, rather than the framework become the goal itself.
Yep. I have another question which is related. Sometimes the management is not giving back what you mentioned, the flight plan.
Yep.
No,
no, I agree.
No,
I know they don't share it. I know they don't share it. I used to be a shift leader in Abu Dhabi. I was a data center in Abu Dhabi. Now, what we did is we actually invited a user each month to come and present to our team. So we actually had somebody from the business come in and tell us, what are your goals? How do you use IT? What happens when it goes down? We had people come in from the oil rigs to tell us, when it goes down, we're wasting time. We're losing money. We're not pumping oil. This is damaging our business. So we got people to come in and share their concerns. The other thing we did is we sent everybody from IT to the business for a day. I sent every single operator, systems engineer, application programmer, I sent every single one of them into the business for a day. And I said, sit down next to the users, listen to how they use the services, ask them what happens when it goes down, ask them what goals are they trying to achieve, show them that we're there to try to understand and make things better for them. So you're right, often the business doesn't know that they should share the goals with us. They don't know why. We've got to go and show them. We have to understand this so that we can prioritize what we do. When you can show them that, you can then show them some quick wins. Look, we've reduced outage. Look, we've stopped a major critical system from going down. Look, we've saved you money. Look, we've increased customer satisfaction. You've got to show some quick wins that demonstrate you know what's keeping them awake at night. Then you can ask them, give us your goals. The more we know about your goals, the better able we are to support you. That's when they'll share it with you. When they can see that you do something with it and it's valuable. Otherwise, no. If they can see that you continually ignore their goals, you've never asked for the goals, you've never even looked at the goals, then I would behave that way as a business as well. Why do I share them with you if you don't do anything with them? So there you go. It's up to us as IT to show credibility and gain trust. We've got to have this information.
Yeah, thanks for that. I have a question about when you deliver this, or when you're delivering this in the Middle East. Are they demand on Arabic version of the game, or you have not? There's no demand on Arabic.
There was a demand on Arabic. We actually translated Apollo 13, I think, into Arabic. And then I think the crisis hit just before COVID hit. And so not much has been done with it since. If there's a demand for Arabic, then we'll translate the games into Arabic. We've got our games in Chinese, Russian, Polish, Czechoslovakian, French, Spanish, Swedish, Finnish. Whenever there's a demand for the simulation, we will translate it into that language. But until there's a demand, a lot of companies are happy to do it in English. But it's always open for translation.
Yeah. I have another question related to COBIT, control objective. Is there anything related to it in what you do, or it's in the same mentality? It follows the same, this is more governance about the process and so on.
Just like I showed you where I said, I can show any theory I like between the game rounds. Now, sometimes between the game rounds, if I'm playing this with strategic managers, I may introduce the goals cascade from COBIT, or I may introduce the 7 enablers from COBIT. It doesn't matter to me. I've created a simple engine with the same stakeholders, business, IT, development, ops. Too much work to do. I can project any framework onto the game to say, let's use the framework now to assess what happened and agree improvements. So I can equally use, as I say, one of my favorite instruments from COBIT is the goals cascade.
Yeah.
Do we understand the strategic business goals? Well, they're in the simulation. Does IT understand its strategic capabilities that it needs to have? Okay, we'll look at the practices in the game, incident, problem, change, and all those practices. How can we improve them to achieve the strategic goals? So you could use COBIT for this.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Just trying to see, because we have some other questions. All right. Just want to tell people who are also on YouTube, please also submit your questions and subscribe to our channel. All right. Muhammad, do you have a question? You want to say it directly?
Hello, guys.
Hello.
How are you, Mr. Rudy? Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I just want to ask something about the business he was talking about a while ago. He said that they should be sitting down and asking what comes first and how's everything doing with the apps and everything. But nowadays, don't you think that it's all becoming just ads? That's all?
It's all becoming what? Sorry, just.
Hello?
Muhammad, your question is not clear, the second part. What is becoming old?
Hello?
Yes. Hi, Muhammad.
Yeah, hello.
Your second part of the question is not clear. Okay, until Muhammad is back.
Did you get the question, Rudy?
No, I didn't get the second part.
Did he say, is it becoming old?
Yeah, but I'm not sure what is becoming old. Maybe the routine.
I don't want to answer that one then if we're not really sure what the question was.
Yeah.
If you can put that question in the chat function, I'll get all of those questions afterwards, and then I can type in an answer to it. So we'll definitely address the question afterwards.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna invite the audience here if they have any extra questions, also so they can open the mic. I like that golden card that you use. It gives value in solving problems, and basically we see the disconnection and silos happening all over.
Yes.
Even when you say silos, usually in governance, it comes and try to solve these silos. And again, this is a tool that you can utilize with any framework. And yeah.
Well, you're right. There's too many silos. And now that the whole of the world seems to be shifting towards Agile and then towards DevOps, everybody's talking about value streams, which means we've got to break down the silos. We've got to get teams working together to solve end-to-end problems. And that is a big cultural challenge because there's a lot of mistrust between teams. So
that's a big culture problem.
It's a big cultural problem. And that's why simulation helps, because you bring people from different departments together and you get them to practice talking to each other, discussing, agreeing, arguing, improving together. So it helps start to change the culture to be more collaborative. That's what you can get with a simulation.
Yep.
I can add as well that personally I have seen the changes that followed some of the organization within our region, whether it is the UAE or Saudi Arabia, which went through this simulation, and as well as companies. We have seen a big change in how they tackle the cooperation, the coherence between all the different departments, and how how such a simulation helped the top management look at whether the team on the developments, the DevOps team, or on the ITIL, ITSM team, look at them from different perspective and really encourage more that they go through the different certification required, which is usually a challenge on top management towards the line managers.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Top managers really also need to be confronted with the fact. One of the big things that top managers often get confronted with in the game is when they see the value in the game of the continual improvement. When they see the value in the game of, wait a minute, we allocated time, effort, and resources to do the improvements, and suddenly we were able to do a lot more value work, feature work, projects, initiatives. Suddenly, senior managers realize we've got to allow IT to spend time doing continual improvement. Otherwise, we're always going to be hitting the constraints of not being able to do enough work. And particularly now where we're doing more and more and more IT projects, if we don't invest in continual improvement, we're at a big risk to our business. So it's great putting senior managers through this to confront them with that.
Yeah, I'm just going to add continual improvement and demand management.
Yep. Yeah, demand management is a great one. Yep.
Yeah, there's a big problem because if they can't know or control the demands are gonna, thrown out, and there's no solutions, and they are overstacking, and you're gonna be having problems big time.
No, that's another great thing that happens in a simulation. You saw how much work we put in. So in a simulation, we put in lots of different projects from the sales, lots of projects from the customer relationship, lots of service improvements, lots of maintenance projects. We put them all on the board and visualize them. And when you play with a business team, they say, wow, where did all this work come from? We didn't realize that you guys had to deal with so much work. That's what we've done. We visualized it. Then they suddenly realize, wait a minute, we can't do it all. That's what we keep telling you. We can't do it all. Well, which ones are we going to do? Well, that's why you need to share your goals with us so that we can identify which ones are we going to do and which ones are we not going to do. And what is the consequences of the ones we're not going to do? So they learn that you've got to create this level of situational awareness to enable effective decision making. And that's what a simulation can do. It can make all of this visible. And if you've got the right stakeholders together in the room to discuss it, that's the first step to solving that problem.
Yep, that's for sure. How long does it usually take each iteration?
A full simulation is played in normally in 6 to 8 hours. We've got a 4-hour version that management teams often play, and each sprint itself takes about an hour and a half.
Okay.
So they've got an introduction where they get 20 minutes to design, then they got something like 30 minutes to play the game round, and then 30 minutes to debrief, reflect what happened, what are we going to do differently in the next sprint.
Yeah. That's it from my part. If anybody has a question, please open your mic and ask it. Otherwise, we're going to be thanking Mr. Paul here for his great presentation. I personally loved it.
If you could make sure you capture all of those questions and send them to me afterwards, yeah?
Yeah, sure.
And as you said, you could share my presentation with everybody. Share it in presentation mode, not
yes,
PDF mode, because they can click on those buttons to open articles.
Okay, that's great to say so I can share it the same way that you.
Yep.
All right. Thank you for that.
Okay, then thanks for giving me the chance to talk to everybody. I hope it's given some people some new ideas of things they could take away.
Thank you, Amjad. Thank you, Gabby. Thank you, George. Thank you, Brahim. And big thank you to Paul. And we'll see you later. And of course, you're going to be hearing from us more. See you later.
Great. Thanks.
Bye-bye.